Most gardeners lose 30 to 60% of their harvest to pests every year, then spend hundreds on chemical sprays that poison the soil and leave toxic residues on food. But there's a pest control system that protects crops without using a single chemical poison and actually makes your garden healthier over time. And here's how it works. The problem isn't that organic methods don't work. It's that conventional agriculture has convinced gardeners that the only solution to pests is poison, when nature has been controlling pest populations for millions of years through predator-prey relationships and biological deterrence. Here's the organic control system that John Seymour proved works through decades of chemical-free gardening. The fundamental mistake that creates pest problems is treating your garden as a monoculture where you plant one crop in large blocks. When a diverse garden with mixed plantings and beneficial insects creates natural pest resistance. Every time you spray a pesticide, you kill not just the pest, but also its natural predators, which means the pest population rebounds even stronger, creating a cycle of dependence on chemicals that gets worse every year. Here's the real secret. Seymour's organic pest control isn't about fighting pests. It's about creating an ecosystem where pests are controlled by natural predators. Plants are healthy enough to resist disease, and the few pests that do appear are managed with targeted organic treatments that don't harm beneficial insects or soil life. All life is one, and anything that destroys one form of life will damage another, perhaps even your own, which is why the organic approach focuses on strengthening the garden's immune system rather than poisoning everything that moves. The system has 8 core strategies. The first is understanding that healthy soil produces healthy plants that resist pests and diseases naturally. This means the foundation of pest control is building soil fertility through compost, manure, and crop rotation. A plant grown in rich organic soil with balanced nutrition is fundamentally more resistant to insect damage and disease than a chemically fed plant because it has stronger cell walls and active beneficial microorganisms in the root zone that suppress pathogens. Now, this is the game changer. The second strategy is encouraging beneficial insects that eat garden pests by providing them with habitat, nectar sources, and year-round food supplies, which means planting flowers among your vegetables and leaving some areas of the garden slightly wild. Ladybugs eat aphids by the hundreds. Lacewings devour caterpillar eggs. Ground beetles consume slug eggs and cutworms. And parasitic wasps lay their eggs inside pest insects and kill them from within. That's a free pest control workforce operating 24 hours a day without any input from you. The third strategy is using companion planting, where certain plants repel pests or attract beneficial insects, creating natural pest barriers without sprays or poisons. Marigolds repel aphids and many other insects with their strong scent. Nasturtiums act as trap crops that draw aphids away from your main vegetables. Alliums like onions and garlic repel many pests, and herbs like basil, rosemary, and thyme confuse pest insects with their aromatic oils while attracting predatory wasps and flies. This is where most gardeners fail. The fourth strategy is practicing diversity by never planting large blocks of a single crop because monocultures create pest magnets where one infected plant can spread disease or insects to hundreds of identical neighbors. Plant your tomatoes scattered among basil, marigolds, and lettuce instead of in one long row. Interplant your brassicas with onions and herbs and create a patchwork garden where no pest can easily move from plant to plant, spreading damage. And here's the part nobody tells you. The fifth strategy is using physical barriers and traps that stop pests without poison. Row covers exclude flying insects while letting light and water through. Copper strips give slugs a mild electric shock. Beer traps drown slugs and snails. Sticky yellow cards trap whiteflies and aphids. And simple hand-picking of beetles, caterpillars, and egg masses during morning garden walks prevents small pest problems from becoming infestations. A few minutes of daily observation and manual removal cost nothing except attention. So now you have soil health, predators, companion planting, diversity, and physical defenses working together. Here's where it all comes together with targeted treatments. The sixth strategy is applying targeted organic treatments that kill or deter specific pests without harming beneficial insects or leaving toxic residues. And Seymour identified several that actually work when used with discretion. For aphids, a simple spray of soapy water knocks them to the ground where they can't climb back onto plants. You can also use plant-based sprays made from Daris, pyrethrum, or quassia that kill aphids but spare ladybugs and other predators. For caterpillars and leaf miners, a nicotine solution made by boiling cigarette butts in water works as a strong deterrent, though it should be used sparingly because it can harm beneficial insects if overused. John Seymour believed that to kill a pest and its predator is very stupid because the pest will return and rage in an even more uncontrolled way, which is why organic treatments must be selective and used only when necessary rather than as preventative blanket applications. The seventh strategy is managing specific animal pests like moles, mice, gophers, and birds with methods that deter rather than poison, because these creatures play important roles in the ecosystem even when they occasionally damage crops. Moles actually do very little harm most of the time because they eat grubs and aerate soil. And when they do lift seedlings, you can simply press them back into the ground. If they become a problem during droughts, you can deter them by burying empty bottles in the ground, so wind blowing across the necks creates vibrations that scare away moles with their sensitive hearing. Mice are best controlled by cats. Or you can deter them from eating pea and bean seeds by soaking the seeds in kerosene before planting, which mice hate the smell of, but which doesn't harm the seeds or soil. The eighth strategy is preventing fungal diseases through proper spacing, air circulation, and avoiding overhead watering that leaves foliage wet overnight. Because most fungal problems are caused by poor growing conditions rather than aggressive pathogens, it's possible to garden all your life without resorting to a single fungicide spray and still get good crops. But in years when blight or other serious fungal diseases threaten, Seymour recommended Bordeaux mixture made from copper sulfate and lime, which is an approved organic treatment that stops fungal spores without the toxicity of synthetic fungicides. Here's what the numbers actually look like. When you transition to this system, the 30 to 60% loss you were experiencing becomes 10 to 20% healthier crops, cheaper costs, and safer food. A chemically managed garden loses 20 to 40% because the chemicals kill beneficial insects and create resistant pest populations that require ever stronger poisons. While the organic approach is not only safer and cheaper, it's actually more effective over time because it works with natural systems instead of fighting against them. The practical application starts with accepting that you will lose some crops to pests, and that's normal and healthy because a garden with zero pest damage is a garden so saturated with poison that nothing can live there. Plan to grow 10 to 20% more than you need to account for pest losses. Focus your energy on creating habitat for beneficial insects and intervene with organic treatments only when a specific pest threatens serious damage. The transformation from chemical dependence to organic pest control happens gradually as beneficial insect populations build up and soil health improves. In the first year, you might see more pest damage as predator populations establish themselves. But by the second and third year, the system balances out and pest problems decrease naturally without any chemical input. Here's what this means in practice. Instead of spraying your garden with broad-spectrum poisons every week, you walk through it every morning looking for pest problems and either handpick the few insects you find or leave them for the ladybugs and lacewings to eat. Instead of killing everything that moves, you learn to distinguish between pest insects and beneficial predators. And you protect the predators while removing only the pests. Instead of fighting nature with chemicals, you work with natural systems to create a garden that regulates itself and stays healthy without constant intervention. You're not accepting defeat or letting pests destroy your crops. You're recognizing that pest control is fundamentally about ecosystem management rather than chemical warfare. And when you build a diverse, healthy garden with active predator populations and strong plants, pest problems solve themselves most of the time without any action from you. The organic pest control system isn't about being soft on pests or accepting massive crop losses. It's about being smart enough to use the free pest control services that nature provides instead of paying for poisons that make the problem worse. Every beneficial insect you protect is working for you 24 hours a day, eating pest eggs, larvae, and adults, creating a pest control system that costs nothing, requires no labor, and gets more effective every year as populations build up. So start today by stopping all chemical pesticide use immediately. Plant some marigolds and nasturtiums among your vegetables to attract beneficial insects, and spend a few minutes each morning hand-picking any pest insects you see before populations build up. Watch how the ladybugs and lacewings move in within weeks. Observe how pest problems decrease as predator populations establish, and learn to trust that nature has been managing pest populations successfully for millions of years without any help from chemical companies. Poison isn't pest control, it's ecosystem destruction. The moment you stop poisoning your garden and start working with natural predator-prey relationships, pests stop being a crisis and become just another manageable part of a healthy, productive garden. If this natural approach to balancing your garden's ecosystem changes the way you look at pest control, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. We are dedicated to uncovering the traditional wisdom and ecological secrets that have been overlooked for too long. Grow with nature and plant the seeds for a better future. Our next deep dive into the treasures of the earth will be arriving soon.